Hello and welcome to the first week of 2024 Season 2 in iRacing. This is the Team Conti Sim Performance narrated track guide for the Class A NextGen Cup car. Michael Conti here, going to take you through about 30 laps or so at Bristol in the race run. We're going to break this down a little bit more than usual just because Bristol is a really tough place to get around. Really fast and a lot of grip this week, but critical to see where those lift points are, how far to back up the corner and then how early to get back on the throttle. Both of those are key to making time around here. So we're going to go ahead and step out of the car for a second so we can get a better idea of where the lift points are. We'll pause it too just so you all can see as well. Here off turn 4, we're heading down the front stretch. And you would think that you're going to want to brake or start lifting somewhere up here because there is so much available grip this week, but that's actually not the case. So to really preserve those tires, our lift point into turn 1 is going to be just before the end of the Cup Series sign, and we're going to start turning off the wall at that point as well. Start that turn down early at both ends, so when the car lands and compresses in the corner, you're already on the bottom. Get that car set, landed, and compressed with the left front just barely grazing that apron to track transition, and that's the way to go. See about 10 to 15% sustained brake pressure into turn 1. Really getting the thing turned down to the bottom early. Going to the far chase view here, you can see that left front is all but scraping along that apron to track transition. Backing up just a bit, starting to throttle up just at the beginning of this Coca-Cola signage. Pretty good marker for you. Can't really necessarily see that in the middle of the corner, but as you do your runs and then you back out and you look at the replays, that's a pretty good marker for where to start throttling back up. Depending on the pace that you're trying to achieve early on, or maybe what your weather is in that particular test session or race, this on throttle point could move forward or back just a bit, but rule of thumb, pretty good to start throttling up around this Coke sign area here. 1 and 2 is the wider end of the track, so you can really use a lot of throttle pretty quickly as long as you've got that nose pointed and set. So by the time we get to the Geico sign, we're already approaching about 70% throttle with a race pace sort of run right here. Full throttle up on the backstretch. Already turning off the wall by the end of the Cup Series sign into turn 3. Again, a lot of people will go much deeper into the corner, both with that lift point and where they start to turn off the wall. That'll really start to scrub the tires on the approach from the wall to the bottom and cause the car to get tight. And with Bristol cars, typically they're set up a little bit tight to begin with because you really need that security to attack this place and make lap time. So anything you can do to mitigate any additional front load or temperature is going to help sustain some good rotation throughout the run. And in backing up the corners and turning off the wall early, all of that really plays into keeping those front tires happy, keeping the car rotating toward the center. Lifting just before the ZMAX signage into 3, again, depending on how quick I'm trying to go, again, depending on the weather, you might be lifting at or in those ZMAX signs. So this can change a bit, but moral of the story is just make sure you're backing up that entry point. About 10% brake pressure into 3. Early turn-ins, so the left front is as low as possible. Really want to run this bottom for as long into the run as possible. Much nicer on tires down here versus making a lot of time up top. With the way these cars are set up, with the diffusers and the underbody aero, the car is pretty low. So as you venture up the track and you get into the rougher portions of the speedway, you'll start to bottom that diffuser more, and that can definitely upset it. So the bottom of the track, keep it there for as long as possible. Good for lap time, good for tires as well. Approaching 90-degree steering angle at both ends of the track, so don't be afraid to turn. Just make sure that when you're turning, you don't feel like you're scrubbing the fronts. If you feel like you're turning and the front's going straight, then that's telling you you're either carrying too much speed into the entry or you're throttling up too soon at the center. Again, both very common issues at Bristol. Into turn 3 right here. Again, an early turn in, approaching 90-degree wheel lock. Good amount of free roll, lots of partial throttle, really trying to wrap this exit right here so I don't track out too soon and run out of space. And when I start to make my approach to the straightaway off of 4, my car is straight. A lot of times you'll get off this bottom too early and you'll be way out here at this point in the corner. and that causes you to really have to yank the wheel on exit. What that does is that puts a lot of load in the right rear, oftentimes can make it loose on exit. So the straighter you can exit toward the wall off of turn 4, the better it is for both lap time and tire, and then comfort as well. It'll feel a lot better too. Playing it at speed here. Just really trying to get into a rhythm here. Keep it around the bottom, keep it tidy, not a whole lot of counter steer. Not a whole lot of brake either. I mean, you could probably get away with free rolling at this point in the run into the entry with very little to no brake. We just use a little bit of brake to help set the nose, shave off a little bit of additional speed. But it's truly a rhythm racetrack. Get in your rhythm, get comfortable, really start to make some good lap time and keep those tires under it. So now let's go back inside the car. A little different perspective here. Good amount of free roll. As I increase that throttle, I really don't want to put any more wheel into it, so you'll notice as soon as I start to throttle up, that wheel either sustains it where it was at before the throttle, or it starts to return to center. Cranking wheel and throttling up, that'll typically get you on the right front, center, and then snap loose with the right rear on exit. Definitely want to back up your race pace versus the outright potential of the car, probably 2 to 3 tenths early on. Not a whole lot of tire wear here this week, but the heat is definitely coming into effect on both those right side tires. So running max pace from the beginning of the run will definitely overheat those rights. Start to lose lap time toward your lap 30 mark, especially past that as well. I'll cut out here for a couple laps because it's not really going to change too much, so pay close attention to that wheel and the throttle inputs, and we'll pick it back up around lap 16 or so. About to begin lap 16 here, and you'll notice by looking at the lap times that there hasn't been a ton of fall off, really staying around those low 2s. I would say for a longer race run and similar to the pace that I provided in the notes this week, you probably want to be about a tenth or so off of this just to make sure that you've got something to race with past lap 30. But for the purpose of a 30 lap run, 2s to start are pretty good. You can probably touch the 1s a little bit as well, but anything more than that, and you really can start to burn them off. But really, fundamentally, nothing changes with the approach throughout the run. As the tires fall off, you might back up your entry a little bit more, use a little bit more brake, and then start to delay your on throttle and the aggressiveness with which you're applying throttle in the center a bit, but it stays fairly consistent throughout the run. If you do venture up to the top, which you'll probably have to at some point in the race when the bottom rubber's in, probably are able to drive it in a little bit deeper and be more aggressive with the throttle application in center, just because you've got more banking to play with up there. The thing that you should look out for, though, is how to navigate the bumps up top, especially in 1 and 2. The diffuser will hit up there, so really practice that top at some point in your test sessions or your practice sessions before doing it in the race, because when the diffuser hits, it hits pretty aggressively, so it can definitely catch someone by surprise that's not ready for it. But like I said, with the dynamic track and a bunch of cars out here, the bottom will eventually get slick and you'll have to move up. Not necessarily to the fence automatically, but you'll at least have to move a lane or 2 up, I would say pretty early in the race. Bristol is fairly straightforward, and there's typically not a whole lot of separation from first to last in a race. It's not really not even really hundreds here, it's more like thousands. So every little thing that you can improve on will certainly help. You definitely don't want to do what I just did right there, which is have a big handful of counter steer and slide the right rear. But this is the point in the run where that right rear does start to approach its hottest, so that's when you really need to watch that throttle application on exit. You can see I've corrected it right there. To help that slip off of 4, you can enter a little bit higher into 3 and cut it down more aggressively at the center to get a straighter exit. That's an avenue to compensate for that. That little bit of a loose condition will start to pick up on throttle. But you can see as long as I manage it, and now that I'm aware that the right rear grip is going away, it's pretty manageable. It's not too bad. But it can definitely get worse if you don't catch it. Same thing with the tight. If you continue to overdrive every lap, you're going to get tight entering the center. If you feel that in one of your practice runs, get out of the car, look at your initial lift points, compare them to what we talked about, which is at the end of the Cup Series sign into 1 and just before the ZMAX signs into 3. And if you're driving in deeper than that, then there's definitely room to correct that and see if that keeps the fronts on it a bit better. Taking lap 30 right here, about to complete the run, still in the 14.5s. We'll dip into a 6 here as we complete 30. So about a half a second of fall off in 30 laps, which is pretty minimal. So that means that strategy will be wide open in these races. There may be opportunity to take 2 tires, gain some track position, see if you can hold off the fresher tires. We've definitely seen that in the past. But also qualifying will be critical as well. So in addition to doing your race runs, make sure that you're taking our qualifying setup out, or your qualifying setup, and get some good practice on that so you can nail a lap and start on the right foot and be in front of a lot of the mess in the mid-pack. So Bristol is fun, Bristol's tough, but it's a good way to start season 2 with a track that definitely is in the driver's hands. The guy behind the wheel can definitely make a big difference as far as how the car builds throughout the run, how it handles, just in backing up the beginning of the run with lap time, changing your approach to driving the car. There's a lot you can do to really give yourself and the car some direction as the run goes on. Bristol's tough, like I said. It's typically pretty rough and tumble. So as I sign off here, I will wish you all the best of luck. I hope that the wrecks are behind you and you can keep it clean for the most part, and have a good, enjoyable week to start season 2. Thank you all, as always, for choosing Team Conti Sim Performance. We appreciate your business, and we look forward to seeing you all on track this week. Good luck, guys.